It is Tuesday. The weather's changing. The leaves have changed. The Halloween's getting closer. Welcome to the Wise Guys. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler. You're back in the country. The band's back together after a week being apart, and the Cougs had a bye week. Now they're getting ready for football. All is right. Everything's back.
Except for when I walked in the door. So I literally flew home, got up at 11 p.m. last night, our time here, and flew home from Amsterdam. And I walked in the door, and Alexa was lit up. And she said, freeze warning in Utah. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's coming.
When's that coming?
It's like Friday.
There's a freeze warning for Friday.
Yeah, it happens every year.
How come I came back to that? That just doesn't seem right.
It's that whole autumn thing. Is there a freeze warning Saturday in Fort Worth for the BYU defense to stymie TCU? We got a lot to talk about. Welcome to the Wise Guys, the #1 BYU Sports live stream in the entire world. And our good friends are already on the live stream saying hello to us from as far away as New York, as close as Farmington, Utah, and Harriman, over to Beaumont, Texas, Henderson, Nevada. Bring it on. We're excited to have you back, and we're excited to have survived the bye week.
Yeah.
And now it's football full speed ahead. And we encourage you, as always, to follow us on YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat, as we always do. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. It's also free on Facebook, and we're on Twitch and ysguys.com. And yes, Mark Actual, this is the best night of the week.
It is. Hey, don't forget to follow us on ysguys.com and subscribe so you can get our weekly email. In that email, you're going to get highlights from the show. It's free. We encourage you to check out our library of interviews. I mean, it's a massive library of interviews now, ranging from Danny Age to Marie Osmond to Mark Pope, from Tom Homo to Sherry Dew, Jimmer Fredette, Mark Wilson, Steve Young, Ty Detmer, Chase Roberts. They're all waiting for you there at ysguys.com, wiseguys.com. And I mean, we range from astronauts to musicians to athletes to governors to you name it.
We got it.
That is there for you, just waiting for you to go and download and take your AirBuds with you. Are they AirBuds or AirPods? What are they called? AirPods. Take your AirPods with you, download it, get on your bike, go for a ride before the freeze warning comes on Friday, and listen to whoever you want.
Alan is with us from Wolfboro, New Hampshire. So, Alan, good to have you on the Wise Guys.
Is that our first New Hampshire? Has
it feels like it.
I feel like I haven't seen New Hampshire before.
Yeah, we're starting to pop up all over the place.
Love it.
Today,
and we love Lehigh and Harriman too.
Oh yeah,
guys. So don't get us wrong, Josh. We love Lehigh and
John from Harriman.
We love Harriman. We love it all. So
we got an awesome show tonight. We typically have awesome shows.
Yeah.
And this is right up there. The Cougars back in action. They play TCU Saturday. And we're going to visit with the last quarterback to play the Horned Frogs for BYU, Riley Nelson. And yes, he's the guy that got up and gave the official a high five after a 2-point conversion.
Was it the fake spike?
Photo.
Was it the fake spike game?
No, that was the bowl game.
That was the bowl game. That's right.
That was.
But he did. I love that you have the graphic video of this.
Oh yeah, see that? See that high five right there? Those on the podcast, just envision a quarterback jumping up after getting across the goal line. The official's got his hands up in the air, and he jumps up and gives him a high five.
Riley's calves are still looking that good. Look how good Riley's calves.
Cougars lost that game, but we got the high five. So Riley's coming up. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
We're gonna visit or preview the Horned Frogs. We're also going to visit with Karin Nelson, the BYU alumni chapter chair for the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Karin.
Which we do every week. Find out what's going on with the Alumni Association down in that area. There's a big group that always supports the Cougars when they're in the state of Texas.
And remember that initially the TCU was saying, hey, we're not going to give BYU tickets
BYU fans are
outside of their allotment. And now I have a feeling, now that the Frogs have lost a few games, it's like, hey, you want in? You can get in. And I think BYU is going to have a large contention.
What did we say? We said BYU fans, back at the beginning when they said that, we're like, no, BYU fans are sneakier than they're giving them credit for.
They'll go in with purple shirts.
They'll find some tickets.
So that's all coming up. Let's start with some headlines. It's Kalani Sitake's 48th birthday today. And I asked this question on my Facebook page earlier. If you could give Kalani the gift of a win among the remaining teams on the schedule, who would it be? And here are some of the answers. Eric says, my gift would be a W at TCU. Corey says Texas. Brooke says Oklahoma. Daryl says Oklahoma. William goes TCU, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, possibly Texas or Oklahoma, not both.
Okay.
Thanks, William, for some wiggle room.
William. Yeah.
Jeff says Oklahoma. Mark says all of them, but beating Sarkisian in Austin would be great. So tonight we ask you the very same question on our live stream and on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook. If you could give Kalani the gift of a win this week among the remaining teams on the schedule, who would it be? Give us your answer. Let us know what you think, and we'll talk about it throughout. Yeah. We also got some TV details for Texas Tech.
That's right. They announced the Texas Tech game time and the outlet that it'll be covered by. So this game on October 21st, next Saturday, is 5 p.m. Mountain. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1. So that's good. National game on Fox Sports 1.
What game did we have on FS1? Was that the season opener against Sam Houston?
I think it was.
So you know where to find that. That's where you can find this one.
Yep.
FS1.
And our game day coverage starts at 3 Mountain on that day. We're always going to do we're going to do a 2-hour pregame show for every game, home or away, and then we'll come back for about an hour postgame, depending on when we have to get out to fit the TV time. But 2 hours pregame, every game, home or away, and so we'll be on at 3 for that Texas Tech game.
John Crowder says, "I'm giving Kalani the win over Texas for his birthday." That's the wish. The Longhorns looked really good for a long time in that game the other day.
The Texas one, but you know what? I think Oklahoma at home in front of the home crowd.
They're going to have the college football playoff implications coming to Provo because Oklahoma's not going to lose between now and then.
They could be a win against Oklahoma at home in that environment. That could be epic. That could be the best win of the season.
Yeah, Brent from Newport Beach, California. Surf's up. Hope you're having a good day.
There's no freeze warning in Newport Beach, I can tell you, Brent, right?
Neil from Tucson, Arizona, in with the Wise Guys. So Saturday this week, that information was for Texas Tech next week.
This is this week.
Saturday, it's a 1:30 game Mountain Time on ESPN. The Frogs are favored by 5.
Which I don't understand.
I don't either. They're 3-3. They're 1-2 in the Big 12. They got wins against Nicholls State at Houston and SMU. Losses to Colorado at home. West Virginia at home, and then last weekend they got beat at Iowa State and lost their quarterback.
They're coming off of back-to-back losses where they scored 21 and 14 points. And they lost their starting quarterback, who started every game so far this season. Now, their freshman was a highly touted freshman that came in and played well, but he's still a freshman. And guess what? Now he's got 19 throws on tape, and he played. He's not quite as mobile as their starter, Morris. But we'll get into it a little bit more later, but how are they still favored by 5?
I don't know, but I'm okay with it because the last thing we need is for BYU to go into a road game thinking they're the favorite until they beat one of these legit Big 12 teams.
Yeah, I think Kalani loves it.
Yeah.
Kalani loves this idea that these guys have to go in with a chip on their shoulder and that they're, somehow being disrespected. And I think this team loves that. So this TCU game, 1:30 Mountain, it's on ESPN, so it's national. How about BYU's getting some national games in the middle of the day?
Yeah.
Right? So 1:30 Eastern, there's the graphic for you. Or 1:30 Mountain will hit the air at 11:30 Mountain time for that pregame show.
It's going to be a fun one. BYU Hall of Famer Austin Collie is going to join our crew. I sit down with L.J. Martin. He's going back to Texas, freshman. A few months ago, he was running in the Texas 5A Division II playoffs in El Paso. 2 hours of pregame coverage in our BYU TV studios, and Spencer will be over there at Ammon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth. Take you right up to kickoff, and then the live postgame show back on BYU TV. So we got a super Saturday ahead for us. By the way, Josh says, I'm giving Kalani the win against Oklahoma at home.
See,
Happy birthday.
That's what I'm talking about. Clearly the team to beat in the Big 12. I think the combination of the fact that they're the team to beat right now, nationally ranked, they keep winning, and I think they will, just as you mentioned, Dave. And it's a BYU. It's in Lavelle Edwards. Could be a huge
could be
upset
snowy
at
and
home.
cold.
It could be so fun. So I'm with you, Josh Gibbons. I'm on that one. So let's talk about this game a little bit more. Last time they met was in 2011 in Cowboys Stadium, 38-28 TCU win, as you mentioned. So Chandler Morris, for the second year in a row, is the starting quarterback for TCU.
Right.
And he gets injured. Now, last year it was earlier in the season, and then Max Duggan comes in
a superhero on
and
the bench.
becomes one of the top quarterbacks in the country, like completely unexpected how he just picked it up and became this dynamic leader, playmaker, and led him all the way to the national championship game. But Chandler Morris is out, so now Josh Hoover is going to get the start. He's a 6'1", 196-pound freshman. As I mentioned, he's a highly regarded recruit coming out of high school.
Hasn't had a start yet.
No, so he was 11 of 19 for 119 yards and a touchdown. He was rated the number 33 quarterback in the country coming out of high school. So he's talented, right? But is any freshman ready to play?
Not very many.
No, they're not.
And usually a defense can throw a few things at you and get you confused.
Yeah,
You've been there. You know what it's like.
Oh, yeah. I remember very well. I remember as a sophomore getting in my first game as a sophomore. And I was a backup, but I got in a game. And the first time I dropped back to pass, Dave, I couldn't see anything. There was just people flying around. It was just colors all mixed in. So I just took off and ran. And I got to our sideline and ducked off on the sideline. And Mike Holmgren grabbed me, looked in the face, and he goes, What did you see? Because obviously the receivers open downfield. And I go, I saw this. And I just went like that. And he goes, it's okay. The game will slow down. And then, then fast forward a couple years down the road, I'm a redshirt junior. I played in a bunch of games that year. We played Michigan for the national championship. Robbie gets knocked out in the first quarter. I go in the game, and I remember thinking 3 plays in, man, these guys are slower jumping these routes than our guys are in practice. Yeah. Our guys cheat in practice. There's such a difference between your third or fourth year and your first year, and how fast the game appears to you. And Jay Hill loves to design a whole series of blitzes for young quarterbacks.
Yeah, and Earl Carr says, hey, Dave and Blaine, with them starting a freshman, I expect Jay Hill to throw confusing defenses at them.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Sonny Dykes likes to throw the football, but you may see him temper that just a little bit with a young guy. They're going to try to run the football. Bailey, their running back is a star.
And he had 31 carries for 152 yards against Iowa State. So a quarterback goes out, and even though they're behind, they're just going to run it. I have a feeling that BYU is going to see a lot of Bailey on the ground on Saturday.
They're going to try to take the pressure off this young freshman. Just let him play action pass. If they can get Bailey going, then that allows them to play action and hold those linebackers. Bailey's just really low to the ground, 5'9", 207 pounds. So he's kind of a low to the ground type of a guy. Runs with a really low pad level. He's gone over 100 yards 4 of the 6 games this season, so they've really relied on him. He's second in the Big 12 in rushing right now. He's 4th in the FBS with 690 yards. Played his first 2 seasons at Louisiana, where he was really good. So he transferred. Now remember, this TCU team is kind of a rebuild on offense. On defense, they have 8 starters back on defense this year to start the season. Now they're missing their star linebacker up to this point. We may see him back in Hodge, but on offense, they lost their top 2 running backs, their top 3 wide receivers, and Max Duggan that we just talked about at quarterback. That's a lot of skilled firepower to lose and to try to replace. So they tried to do that through the transfer portal, much like BYU. And one of the stars they found was Bailey. And he's been really good. So expect them to run it more than you would normally see a TCU team run it and take pressure off of Josh Hoover.
Kellen Knight on our live stream is going to give us a scouting report right here. It says Josh Hoover went to my old high school. Got to watch him play his junior and senior year. Kid can sling it. And then funny, I get to see him play at the Division I level on Saturday. Hope he plays well, but not that well. Thank you for the insight. So we're going to see a lot of Hoover. We'll see a lot of Bailey. Defensively for the Horned Frogs, remember back in the day when BYU played TCU and they just got shut down. TCU had top 5 defense in the country, and they went through a 4-year phase. I mean, BYU's lost 4 straight to these guys, but you got to go back to the Mountain West days. They couldn't do anything against them, and we'll ask Riley about that a little bit. But this is not them. And the last 2 games combined, they've given up 416 rushing yards in those back-to-back defeats, and that's not old school TCU. That's today's TCU.
Yeah, they're built differently and designed differently to compete in the Big 12. Gary Patterson back in those days, the whole concept was built around defense and just smothering people with blitzing defense and sacks and tackles for loss. Tremendous athletes on the defensive side of the ball and a lot of speed on offense. But you think about those offenses, they had explosive players that made big plays, but they were more basic and more balanced with the run game back in those days. And I mentioned Hodge has been playing all year at backer. It's his running mate Johnny Hodges that has missed the last 3 games, didn't play in the last 3 games because of injury. And this linebacking core is the key to that defense. And Hodges, if he's back, like he's listed as a starter, he adds a bunch to that defense because he's just a tackling machine and he's a great leader out there. They have a veteran defense, veteran secondary. As I mentioned, 8 starters back from last year. But somehow they just have not been as effective as they were last year at stopping. And part of it is your offense, when you got Duggan out there and you're slinging the ball all over the place,
scoring 40 points
the ball,
a game.
You're scoring a bunch of points, and other teams are trying to play catch up. It's a little different. They've been in some low-scoring games, and teams have been able to get a little bit of a lead and then run the football on this TCU team, which is interesting. Because that's not been BYU's strong suit this year.
No, maybe this is the week they start running the football.
So this has not been a good run defense, but BYU has not been scaring anybody with their run game. And so this is an interesting matchup in this one.
CJ Nance says hello from West Jordan, and then Kay Porter says a perfect night here in South Jordan for listening to Dave and Blaine.
Thank you for
so
that,
Kay
Kay.
Porter, you could go outside and shout, "Hey, CJ."
Both
maybe he's your neighbor. Maybe he's in the neighborhood.
Get to know each other. We want all of our people that follow us to know each other. So
and we've got Provo in, which is awesome, right down the street.
So that matchup, Dave, is interesting because they've been suspect defending the run. BYU's not been running that great. Now let's flip it on the other side. What has BYU done really well? They've defended the run really well this year. They've been pretty solid against the run. A couple of exceptions. Of course, Kansas was that exception, but Kansas has been running the football on everybody. Last week as I watched Kansas, I went, hey, maybe we weren't as bad in that game as I thought. Maybe Kansas is really good. They went off.
They're playing good.
They went off last week offensively. So BYU's pretty solid defending the run, and TCU's going to have to defend on the run. So defend or depend on the run. Yeah. To help their offense this week. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup. And you know what? It may not be a crazy high-scoring game.
The numbers are interesting. BYU averages 31 points. TCU averages 31.3. BYU allows 22.4. TCU allows 22. One of the more notable differences is TCU's averaging 16 more offensive plays per game than BYU.
Because they're running the football.
They can run the ball.
And so TCU averages 192 yards a game running, and BYU's averaging 62. I remember I said I don't care if they average. I think they need to average at least 80.
Yeah.
But I care more about how many yards per carry they average than what they get. I think they need to be effective enough to take pressure off of Keaton Slovis and set up the play-action game and the screen game. If you can't run it at all, then you're really one-dimensional. If you can just run it, if you can just average 4 yards a carry, and get around 80. I'm okay with that. They don't have to go rush for 150 yards a game.
LJ averaged 4 yards a carry against Cincinnati.
That's what they need to do.
Yeah.
That was enough. I'd like to see them get a little bit more, but 62 yards a game is not enough. And TCU, like we mentioned, 192.2. Now TCU's throwing it for 240 or for passing it for 280 a game. BYU 255 a game. So TCU's just a little more balanced. It's the run that they've depended on more this year than maybe in past years.
It's going to be interesting. I just think it's going to be interesting. Aiden Robbins, we might see him back. He got hurt early in the season and is trying to get healthy. LJ's completely healthy, and you know we saw Miles Davis for the first time against Cincinnati,
He got to the
and now
edge.
he's on the depth chart. And so between Deion Smith and LJ Martin and Miles Davis, that's BYU's running contingent in the event that Robbins doesn't get back for this week.
Right. And then, I mean, who else might we see? There's speculation on whether or not we're going to see Bennett linebacker.
Yeah, Jay Hill today said probably not for Bywater, which is which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but Ben's saying he is.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what. I know.
By the way, we already know players don't get to decide.
Right. And we already know Talon Offrey's been saying for weeks, I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go. But it's,
so will we see Talon Offrey back? That's a big question. What about Cody Epps this week? Has this been enough? Has this been enough rest now where you've just put that bye week in there? Like, I hate bye weeks as a fan and broadcaster, but BYU needed that bye week. And can they get Keanu Hill and Cody Epps back full strength this week? Because
I would like to think
the way Chase Roberts has been playing, the way that the transfers have come in and really melded into this offense, the way Isaac Rex is playing,
and Slovis is healthy.
Yeah, I just feel like this receiving core, if they can get those two guys healthy, is as deep and as strong as any receiving core in the league.
It's a winnable game.
Yeah.
It's a winnable game on Saturday, and that should have all Cougar Nation excited to see what happens.
I really love the development of Darius Laster while Epps and Hill have just kind of been nursing injury. He's really developed into a go-to guy, and we've seen Keelan Marion, as he's learned the offense, have more and more of a role the last couple of weeks. So bye week, another week to learn, but a week. So now throw those two guys back in there. That's a pretty formidable receiving core that Keaton Slovis has out there.
And Parker Kingston, who played a little bit against Cincinnati, has had another full week to rest after getting nailed on the first play against the Jayhawks. And so throw in Kingston. Now you got 6.
Yep.
You got your rotation of 6 guys and Isaac Rex and a healthy Robbins and a healthy L.J. Martin and a healthy Slovis, and the offensive line.
The offensive line should be 100%.
Lapuahu should be back.
Right. They had some guys nicked up in that last game. They toughed it out and beat Cincinnati. I think you're going to have a full complement. And then defensively, I mean, other than the guys they lost before anything even started, because they lost their both starting safeties, and Micah Harper and Talon Offrey, they're still going to be missing those guys. I think they're pretty much healthy all around the board with everybody else.
Kalani Sitake is happy that the bye week's over because he likes to play games.
Yeah, we like him to play games.
Let's hear his remarks just for a couple of minutes. This is how he kicked off the week with the media as BYU prepares for TCU.
Yeah, game week. I thought I was going to be able to skip this week, but I guess last week was for the bye, and this week I know you guys missed me, so here I'm back again. Excited for this stretch that's coming ahead of us. You know, with this game against TCU and us going out there to Fort Worth. Really excited about the matchup. You know, this is a well-coached team, and you look at it, it's like I really like Sonny Dykes. Sonny and his wife Kate are amazing people and have been really kind to myself and my wife Timberly, and so we've had a lot of interactions with them, and not just in the Big 12, but also with some of the things that we do as coaches with Nike and with Pebble Beach. And so I don't know what that means. That means I'm sorry, guys, just got all kinds of distract. I look better without the light, so that works. All right, thank you. But I have a lot of appreciation for what Sonny does as a coach, and I think his wife Kate, they're amazing together, and the things that they do, leading young men, leading programs, and I consider him a friend. So looking forward to the matchup, but have tons of respect for him and his program. This team played for the national championship last year, so they have a lot of guys that have seen success, and they're a really talented team. We're still kind of new into the Big 12, but we're still trying to find our identity, still trying to go through some things, and there's some things that I know that we want to improve on, and that we want to get better. But I really love the effort, the energy from our players. I like the way the culture is going. I love the leadership in our program, and so as we put this thing together, we'll see how the matchup goes up this weekend. But we feel really excited about the opportunities, and we're looking forward to the game this week. I know we're going to be on the road. It's hard to win at home in the Big 12. I know it's even harder to win on the road, but we're seeking our first Big 12 road victory. So hopefully we can get that done against a really talented team. Like I said, we have a lot of respect for them, but we want to give them our best shot. We know we'll get theirs, and we'll just live with the results after that. So I'll take any questions you guys have.
It's the head coach, Kalani Sitake, on Monday of this week, kind of setting the tone for what's ahead. And one thing, Blaine, that we've noticed is after last weekend, the landscape in the Big 12 is wide open and full of opportunities, especially, Texas and Oklahoma. They played like the best two teams. Okay.
Yeah.
But everyone after that,
it's those two and then everybody
all
else.
changed. Let's talk about a couple of those games. And Riley Nelson's coming up, going to join us here in just a second on the Wise Guys. But first of all, last week, Oklahoma State, which has been playing terrible.
Yeah, they looked like superstars last week. What in the world?
They lost 2 games in a row. Then they got Kansas State, who won the league last year, won the conference title, and Oklahoma State beat them 29-21 in Stillwater. And I'm just like, I thought Kansas State was going to destroy them.
Yeah.
And so that was surprise number 1, which goes, hey, you know what? Now Kansas State might not be what people thought, so maybe number 3 is wide open.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because when you look at the standings in the league, you got Oklahoma. I'm just talking about league standings, not overall record, right? But you got Oklahoma at 3-0, West Virginia at 2-0. And West Virginia, by the way, is also 4-1.
And they were picked last.
Who everybody thought might win 1 game this year.
Right.
What in the world is going on in West Virginia? So that thing's upside down. And kudos to them coming out and playing the way they're playing. They look good on both sides of the ball. Texas is 2-1 and 5-1. Kansas is 2-1 and 5-1. As I mentioned, if you guys didn't get a chance to see Kansas last week, they looked really, really good
with their backup.
With their backup,
and he's going to play again this week.
Yeah, and BYU's coaching staff was saying to us as they watched film, because remember their starter was hurt quite a bit the year before, and they thought it didn't matter who played quarterback. They felt like their backup quarterback was equally effective, a little bit different skill set, but equally effective. They just got a lot of skill guys, and remember Neal is a phenomenal running back. Yeah. I think Neal is arguably the best running back in the Big 12. And so Kansas making a bid to be the number 2, that maybe 3. Then Iowa State in the league now is 2-1. They're just 3-3 overall. Texas Tech is 2-1 in the league, 3-3 overall. And here's BYU at 1-1, 4-1 overall.
Iowa State beat TCU, as we mentioned, 27-24. Texas Tech blew out Baylor. Baylor's a bust. They got beat 39-14.
Yeah,
they're the biggest surprise of the whole situation.
West Virginia's the biggest surprise in a positive way.
They're going up, and the Bears coming down.
And Baylor at 1-2 in the league and 2-4 overall is the biggest negative surprise.
It's been a great year to play Baylor.
Yeah, and
Kansas beat UCF 51-22. UCF, it's gonna be a while before they recover from leading Baylor 35-7 and then getting beat 2 weeks ago.
So when you look at the 4 newcomers to the league. Here's BYU at 1-1 in the league and 4-1 overall. And then the other 3 entries, Cincinnati 0-2, Houston 0-2, Central Florida 0-3. Cincinnati overall is 2-3, Houston is 2-3, and Central Florida is 3-3. So of the newcomers, BYU's had the best start. And nobody expected BYU to go and beat Arkansas on the road, right? And they gave Kansas a good game.
We're going to find out a lot about BYU these next 2 weeks.
The next couple weeks are key, but right now, if they can stay relatively healthy, I like their chances to win 8 games.
Yeah, I think Saturday's the swing game to 8. Yep. Saturday's the gateway to 8.
Yep, gateway to 8. I like it.
So Oklahoma went in and went into Dallas and beat Texas 34-30. They scored the winning touchdown in the last few seconds. Texas could not deal with the mobility of the Oklahoma quarterback, the one we saw against was it Central Florida years ago?
BYU played him in the bowl game a couple years ago when he was a youngin.
And Zach Wilson kind of lit him up.
BYU had a great game plan against him. They built a fence in front of him. They were really disciplined and not letting him get outside of containment.
Well, he was all over the place against Texas.
Yeah.
And I was surprised because Texas beat Oklahoma 49-0 the year before. 49-0. And now Oklahoma's all of a sudden shown up with some defense. This was their first real big test. They're good.
Well, and think about it. Their new head coach was considered the best defensive coordinator in college football for how many years? He comes in at Oklahoma, and they couldn't stop a soul last year. But you know what? How many kids transferred out of there when Lincoln Riley left? They lost.
A lot of good ones.
They had like 19 starters leave. So he was rebuilding. Guys were learning a brand new system on both sides of the ball, really. They're running, I guess, pretty much the same offense, but learning a whole new system defensively. Maybe he does know what he's doing, right? Maybe Venables is actually, because they're playing D.
Yeah.
And they're moving the ball like the old days. This Oklahoma team looks good.
We're going to see them next month. This week in the Big 12, Thursday night on FS1, it's West Virginia at Houston. Get a chance to see the Mountaineers. The Cougars will be down in the country, early November, heading down to West Virginia. Saturday, BYU's at TCU, that's ESPN. Iowa State's at Cincinnati. Number 23, Kansas is at Oak State. Kansas State is at Texas Tech. And then you got the big ones, Texas, Oklahoma. They're on a bye along with UCF, and Baylor could really use a bye. So that's what's this week in the Big 12. Our first guest tonight played quarterback in 32 games at BYU, including 19 starts. He finished with 4,032 passing yards and 35 touchdowns. He also rushed for 858 yards and 6 touchdowns between 2009 and 2012. I think he broke most of the bones in his body, and he just kept playing. Our pleasure to welcome Riley Nelson back to the Wise Guys. Riley, good evening. Thanks for being here. Do you got us? I see you. You might not be able to see us, but we're waiting to hear from you.
I can hear you. I'm off mute.
Oh,
I got you.
We can hear you. We got you. We just, and we're not sure if you can see us. So we're trying to frame you up because we only have you.
We can see you good enough to go, hey, nice haircut.
Yeah, nice haircut.
Is it better to go wide like this?
Yeah, well, go down a little bit because we're just seeing you from the eyes up. Those steely eyes. It's like we're looking at you right above your face mask. Just the eyes.
I'm sorry for the technical difficulties,
like a police
guys.
investigation.
Hey,
no, you're good.
Oh,
you're good. This is a live stream. This is how we roll.
Take the camera down just a little bit.
Right there.
Now we got you.
Go. That's Riley Nelson right there with a big smile. Riley, what do you think of this TCU game on Saturday?
I think it's about time that BYU catches some injury luck, meaning that I think them. Look. Bottom line is TCU. They had that historical year, making a run all the way to the national championship, and running the gauntlet. But they were senior heavy, had a ton of talent. Also, anybody that could have played off that momentum as they should have and going to the league. And so they're rebuilding. And for BYU to go on the road and play TCU in their first Big 12 slate, it's good to catch them in a rebuilding year, and then even better to catch them when their starting quarterback, they're going to be breaking in a new QB. I don't know much about the backup. I don't know how many snaps he's taken, but, to catch a team, well, it can be a little bit of a catch-22. If you're prepared defensively and you make life hard on them, it can work in your favor. If you allow, the team always tends to rally around when their starter goes down and rally around that backup, and you kind of get a little bit of emotional lift. But if you come out with a well-designed game plan, you can kind of squelch that emotional lift pretty quickly and take care of business down there. So I'm optimistic for the Cougars. I think the injury to their quarterback increases their chances, and I'm anxious to see what improvements they've made throughout the bye week and how that manifests on Saturday.
Riley, this is a BYU team that's really struggled to run the football. And Dave and I were just talking about the fact that this is a TCU team that, especially in the last couple of games, hasn't been able to stop people from running the football. They've been in low-scoring games where the other team's getting the ball and in the second half just running it and taking the air out of the ball, and they haven't been able to get off the field. Is that something? Is this the week that we see BYU finally break out and run the football a little bit? Just over 60 yards a game running the football so far this season. That's just not good enough, is it?
No, not by any stretch of the imagination, especially if you want your quarterback to succeed. The quarterback, he gets he is the product of his environment. He can obviously he can be a catalyst and take what is a good environment and make it great. But if the environment's no good, there's nobody out there. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes at the pro level or Josh Allen, or at the college level, a Caleb Williams type dude. Like if you don't have your receivers making play on your behalf, that O-line opening up holes for your running backs, and running backs taking advantage of those holes to make sure that the defense can't just key on you. Like everybody's set up for failure. So it could be a get right game. But man, I feel like we've thought that a couple times already during this season, and whether it's the offensive line or the running back, has continued to sputter. I don't know. You guys are a little bit closer to it than I am these days. I felt like Kalani hinted really, that Friday night before that Cincinnati game, hinted about Aiden Robbins and the fact that he might be able to finally get right after the bye week and providing a little bit of change of pace in the back. Although I do think LJ Martin's been very serviceable. But Kalani has alluded to the fact that on the other end of this bye week, they could be a different team as far as getting guys with nagging injuries back. And hopefully that manifests itself with the 5 dudes up front and in the running back room.
In your day, you weren't afraid to run, and you had some wheels, and that was Taysom did too, and Cougar quarterbacks that have been able to do that, as we've seen BYU's defense try to deal with quarterbacks who are mobile and kind of a dual threat. Keaton's not a dual threat. Running is not his thing. That's why he's thrown for over 11,000 yards. What do you think are the keys for Keaton over these next 7 games?
Stay healthy. You just mentioned it, being a mobile target, stay healthy. And, you mentioned the injuries that I battled, and it tends to be a little, and obviously Taysom did too. Although Taysom, he was probably 50-50, I think, between his resulting in contact and others that were just kind of fluke. Like his Liz Frank versus Nebraska obviously was a fluke, but then his elbow, he's trying to hurdle someone. Obviously when he blew out his knee his freshman year. Okay, so maybe getting out and going isn't the best thing for quarterback's health. But bottom line is, in today's day and age, quarterbacks are best when they can extend the play, especially if it just takes a lot of pressure. It increases your margin of error, takes a lot of pressure off the offensive line, and then also gives your receivers a greater opportunity to work and exhibit their playmaking ability. So to the degree that he can continue to do that, it takes pressure off himself. It takes pressure off Roderick and Fessy to design and call the exact right play at the exact right time. I'm not saying go full like Caleb Williams, where it looks like every drop back, he's drawn the play up in the dirt. But to the degree that he can extend plays either within the pocket or, mildly outside the pocket to where he feels comfortable and keep himself healthy, I think that'll be a great, game by game progression that will help strengthen this Cougar offense as the season goes on.
Let's play a game here for a sec. It's 1st and 10 at the 25 because TCU kicked the ball out of the end zone. BYU's got the ball. Okay, the team hasn't been able to run, but they've been practicing for 2 weeks to get that going. The receivers are healthy and everything you just described. You're Aaron Roderick. What's the first play that you're calling on 1st and 10 from the 25 after a 2-week period?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a catch-22. I call what we're best at. And observing Keaton Slovis, I think that would probably be some form of a shotgun, maybe not pure quick game, but kind of intermediate game. Because here's the thing. Both fans and look, fans aren't going to totally do it, but there's going to be a lot of Cougar Blue down there in Fort Worth, and of course all the hundreds of thousands or millions of Cougar fans watching on TV. If you come out and you hand that ball off and you get stuff for no gain, or heaven forbid you lose 2 yards, it's just gonna deflate. So
right, that's why I'm saying you're Aaron Roderick. The pressure's on you. What are you calling?
Yeah, so I'm calling. Let's say we're on the left hash, bunch right 54. That's a common concept, Lane. I don't know what you call it, but for us, so that's bunch. So as you look at the triangle, the outside leg of the triangle is running a zone sit. The top of the triangle is running a flag, and then the inside of the triangle is running for the horizontal stretch, and then the inside is running an arrow for the flat stretch, and you're trying to clear open a nice zone window to get a good 6-yard completion. So, and then on the backside, if they overload it there, you just got a nice little slant, or it can be a check with me route, but a slant or a quick out. Get Keaton to get a completion, have a positive outcome on the first play, and take a little bit, and then on 2nd and 4, then hand the ball off. Because 2nd and 4, and if you lose a yard, then you're only in 2nd and 5, or if it's kind of a no gain, you're still in the 3rd and manageable. But that's what I do. You stick with what you do best, and you try and get good mojo going from the outset.
So you're throwing it, and then you're running it.
Yeah, I like the idea of getting him just an easy complete. One of those balls, there's throws in that offense, Riley, and I know that you can complete 95% of the time. You can go get, and maybe you complete it and you only get 3 yards. And I'd even be okay with that. But typically you throw the ball out there, even if it's a quick screen out to a bunch where you complete a ball, you're going to get a minimum of 3 yards. You might get 7 yards. but you get a complete under your belt, and now you get positive yardage on the first play. And it kind of, everybody just kind of goes, like they take a breath after you get that complete, right? I'm 100% with you on that.
If it were me, I'd call a zone action bootleg and just give myself a nice little, triangle read with the flat and the over and the trail.
Yep.
And if I don't like it, so again, nice easy completion. The other thing is, with a zone concept, you're hanging that end, right? We're booting that end. So it immediately gets his mind. Well, first of all, it gives the box a look. Is he chasing heel line to allow us to be out, get out there and have more boots, and maybe rather than a short to intermediate boot, roll around for a shot that takes a little bit longer down the field. Or is he going to be hesitant, which means that our zone we can give the feedback to our running backs that he's maybe going to have a cutback. But come out and go 1 to 2 to trail. And if you don't like any of it, if it's me, I go and get 4 or 6 yards with my legs. If it's Keaton, he maybe throws it to the flat guy who's maybe a little bit covered, Isaac Reich in the flat for no gain or 1 yard. But that's my second option there. A lot of people say that doesn't make any sense to call play action on the first play, but you can still learn a lot if it's executed properly. You can still learn a lot even if you haven't run.
And if they're fired up, Riley, and they're thinking run, then maybe you get their backers to react to the run fake on that first play because they're so juiced up and ready to go. That
they haven't stopped the run for 2 games, so they got to be focused on that.
So, but hey, the thing we all agree on is give Keaton a completion and have a positive yardage play, even if it's only 3 or 4 yards on first down to get things going. I'm with you. So, hey, former BYU quarterback and former radio analyst Riley Nelson is on the Wise Guys Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and ysguys.com with us. Riley, we're so glad you're with us. You faced TCU 3 times while you were at BYU. 2009, you were Max's backup, Max Hall. Frogs were number 8 that year and won 38-7. 2010, as Jay Keep's backup, Frogs number 4, 31-3. And you were the starter in 2011 at Cowboys Stadium against the Frogs, 38-28.
It's a lot of Frogs wins.
The Frogs were really good back in those days, weren't they? They were really good.
Gary Patterson, he had like a very healthy dislike for BYU, such that they always had their team so well prepared and they were really in their groove. I mean, they had a lot of pros on those teams. Obviously, Andy Dalton was out there, but, Jeremy Curley was another guy who gave problems in the secondary. I played against a linebacker named Tank Carter, who I think was a third-round draft pick, and, who was the captain of that defense. But, he always had him. I do feel a little bit badly about, the loss that I actually started in because I threw a pick in the end zone. I got too cute. The guy was playing inside on Ross, and I thought, let's throw him a slant or let's throw him a sluggo where I had him on a quick in. I should have just let Ross use his big body and throw a body throw and just gone with the slant, even though he's playing inside. Instead, I do a sluggo. Ross slips as he's coming out of his break, and I let the ball go. I tried to let it go early, and as he slips, the guy goes back, catches it in the end zone. Anyway, those are the worst. Interceptions all interceptions are bad, but interceptions in the end zone are the worst. And that we were going score for score for them. Yeah. And I think that was either to tie it or to go up. But anyway, I gave away any chance at points, and then they go down and score and made it a 2-possession game, and we're never able to close the gap.
So it's amazing how when you played,
you always remember your interceptions. Oh,
you remember the bad plays. You just always remember why did I throw that? Or you remember the ones where you threw a decent ball and the receiver tipped it up in the air and it got picked. But hey, right, there's a lot going on the chat with our folks all around the world that are listening in, and a lot of talk about TCU's got to play a freshman quarterback right now because Morris is out, and they were saying, hey, does this transfer portal thing make it harder to get young quarterbacks and keep them in the program because they all want to play right now. So if they're not the starter as a freshman, everybody's looking to get out and they go transfer someplace. Do you think it's going to make it more difficult for programs to develop quarterbacks over time, and especially for BYU? Or has BYU got a unique situation where maybe they can keep guys and develop them like they have the last several years? You know, their last 2 guys are guys that came all the way up through the program. Keaton Slovis, of course, is a transfer, but they haven't been the transfer portal place. Is that all going to change? That's what everybody's asking on the chat tonight.
That's a great question, and man, I wish I had a crystal ball. I could make a lot of money consulting these programs and working with their recruiting consultants, whether or not to bet on high school kids or transfers. I do believe that, it is going the dynamics for kids coming out, especially quarterback, which has an interesting dynamic because it's not like you can work a guy into a rotation. It's all or nothing. The one guy's playing and everybody else is not playing. And so I see kind of what I see. Obviously, you're going to have your P5 to P5s, but what I see more are the opportunity of using, G5. You get a guy, honestly, like it was a little bit me. Like I went to Utah State out of high school for different circumstances. And, BYU obviously thought I was good enough to make the step up from, at that time, it was the MAC to the Mountain West, but the caliber of programs between Utah State and BYU, and I was able to come in and kind of level up in my college career and contribute at that higher level because of what I had proven at a little bit of a lower level of college. And I think you're going to see it kind of turn into a little bit of a farm system where high school quarterbacks, except for the very exceptional few who are able to come in and compete right away, are going to be left with tough choices. So from the school standpoint, they're going to be using like farm system and free agency, picking from lower levels and going out and trying to find a commodity that contribute now. From the player standpoint, it's all going to be about how much do they believe that they made the right decision to be where they're at, and then how dedicated are they to continue to progress their individual technique and mechanics and mastery of the position, and stick it out where they are waiting for their one opportunity, and they may only get one, but are they going to prepare enough to be able to capitalize on it? It is these are uncharted waters, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I do think, at least as it sits now, guys are going to go to transfer portal first, rather than to high school stadiums on Friday nights.
I think Dave and I have talked about this on the show quite a bit. Your ability to go get great quarterbacks, whether it's in the transfer portal or to sign top 15 level quarterbacks out of high school, depends a lot on how your guys do at the next level. So right now you got Zach Wilson, who seems to be rounding into a guy he's earning some respect back, I would say, here with the Jets now, which is great to see. I thought he was in a horrific situation up to this point, and he's kind of playing his way out of it, which kudos to Zach. We know he's got the skill set to do it. He's got to be in the right situation and doing good. You got Jaron Hall, who gets drafted. If Keaton Slovis can catch fire down the stretch here and somehow also get drafted, and now you got back-to-back-to-back draft picks at that position, does that change who you can go get?
I think it does. I think despite, I mean, obviously putting dudes in the next level, I still think first and foremost is you have to win and be relevant like in the conference. Like BYU, I think if Keaton Slovis can do that and BYU can finish in the top half of the Big 12, right, and kind of maybe surprise some people. They were picked 8th, I believe. Is that right? Preseason polls.
8th or 9th, depending on which poll. Yeah.
So if they can outkick their coverage and end up somewhere around, even if it's 5th or 6th, or somehow sneak into like that fourth position or somewhere there. And so you can prove that in year one, you came in, you immediately competed at the top of your conference. Oh, and by the way, you just put your 3rd draft pick at that position. And also Roderick is one of the most respected play callers in college football amongst pro talent evaluators and pro offenses. And he runs a pro style offense. Yeah, I think it does change the dynamic of who they got. The other thing that I would say they need to add to that is got to beef up those wide receivers. Like you gotta, like, not that the guys aren't great, but like every quarterback wants weapons. I talked about being able to take some of the pressure off the quarterback and knowing that you have more than one option of a guy that can either take the top off the defense or a guy that's going to win 80% of his 50-50 balls or a guy that somehow is just always going to find that soft spot in the zone. So there you go. Those are the 3 things I'd say. You got to win first and foremost. Second, if Slovis can get drafted again back to back is awesome. And then if you can get some exciting wide receiver talent, I think BYU is going to be in a position to have their pick of the litter, so to speak.
Yeah, you just need Puka Nacua.
Just need a few Pukas.
Yeah, there's just find a bunch of those guys.
BYU is picked 11th in the preseason poll.
That's
if you
right.
think about it.
Holy cow!
They were picked 11th, and they're on the move up. Riley Nelson's with us. In a moment, he's going to reveal his top 5 left-handed quarterbacks of all time.
Right.
We're excited about. But earlier in the show, we showed a picture. We're going to talk to you about it. It's in that game you were playing the Frogs at Cowboys Stadium. You get a 2-point conversion. You know where we're going. You get the ball across the goal line. You look up, and the official's got his hands up in the air signaling that you'd converted it, and you jump up there and slap him a high five, which might have been the highlight of the game. It's certainly the play that we've been talking about since then. And not everyone does that, and that's what made it unique. And let's, if Miranda, can we show that picture again? And it's a great angle by the Deseret News. It really shows your leaping ability, which is quite impressive. But what were you thinking as we look at this picture? What were you thinking when you got up and there's the ref and you go, I'm going to give him a high five?
Well, the first thing is that ref was 6'4",
Yeah,
and even if
that dude's tall.
Well, and even if he weren't, I jumped like I was probably 4 or 5 feet away from him. So to like not invade his personal space, I jumped to slap his hand. So like I didn't like get in his face to meet him. But yeah, I was always giving guff for. I'll say this: the number one thing I get when fans meet me in person, even still, is you're taller than I thought. Somehow the word got out that I was like 5'8" or 5'9", and so everybody's surprised to see that I squoze, barely 6 feet out of it. Which I'm, when you're at that, you got to count every eighth of an inch.
That's right.
Did the line judge say anything to you after?
No, he didn't say anything. I said something to him. So I go in, and if you go and watch the clip on YouTube, you see that I'm taking, it's a race for the pylon, and I get very low to the ground as I dive for the pylon. And my body's horizontal, probably no more than 6 inches off the ground, but I could feel it. So I knew it was a close call. But I also knew as I reached out, I felt the ball hit the pylon before any of my body parts hit the ground. So I knew I was in, and I knew it was good, but I also knew I was getting hit at the same time. So it was going to be a messy call.
Yeah.
Previously on that drive, they had called a pass interference, and not that ref, but that crew had called an offensive pass interference and a holding call.
Oh man, you had to overcome both of those.
So
and
I was a little bit
brutal.
mad at the refs, and this I feel bad, but the truth is the truth, because it always kind of deflates the story a little bit. But I stand up, and if you notice, I give him a quick point, and I said, at least get this one right. And then when he put his hands up in the air, I slapped his hand high five and sarcastically said as I go away, "Good job." So
there was some spite. There was some spite involved in that moment.
The offensive pass interference, it was on Cody or Ross, but it was like one of the worst calls. And then it's rare when an offensive lineman holds; they're kind of just quiet and get back to business. But I believe I think it was on like Braden Hansen. Or it might have been on Braden Brown, one of the Bradens on the right side of my line. But they came back and they were like, Riley, I didn't touch the dude. I don't know where they came up with that call. So I was a little bit upset with the refs. So when he finally, got the call right on a 2-point, which I knew was good, I had to reinforce positive behavior. So that's what I was doing.
I love it.
That's great to get the rest of the story after all this time.
And now the rest of the story. So, hey, Riley, what's it mean to alums to have BYU in the Big 12 now?
It means a ton. I'll admit I've maybe poo-pooed it to a degree, partly because, guys, if I'm being honest, like I made fun of Utah fans so badly. Like I thought it was so ridiculous to see people walking around with shirts where the Pac-12 logo was bigger than the U of U logo. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like all the stickers on the back windows of trucks with the Pac-12 sticker, like you're a Utah fan, cheer for the Utes. Like what's with all this like conference thing? So part of it was like, I couldn't celebrate it because I'd made fun of the Utes for celebrating it. And there was maybe a little bit of envy there. But it's huge. I mean, you look what's going on even across the sports. Did you guys watch? It was a couple of weeks ago when our girls volleyball team was playing Texas on FS1.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that environment looked awesome. I'd never really seen a girls volleyball environment outside of the field house that was like that even compared to BYU. And sure enough, Texas is down there and they're rocking, and it was a tough competitive game. And then you look at what women's soccer's doing, and of course, all that's gone on with football, even though they're only a couple games into their Big 12 slate. But it's just it's a lot of validation of a lot of years of, I'll just be honest, of frustration, of feeling like you're kind of on the outside looking in. And even though we kind of snuck our way in 1984, felt like there was other years where we had some squads out there, but because of conference affiliation or schedule alignment or whatever, never got the full opportunity to prove it. Well, now there's no more excuses for anybody else to leave us out of the dance. We have an equal seat at the table, and now the responsibility is fully on us to perform. And for BYU fans, like, maybe not every year, because no one's kidding themselves thinking that we're dealing with a Georgia or an Alabama or Ohio State. But just like TCU, like, is BYU that much different from TCU that, like, last year, they made a run into the playoffs and got in the national championship game? Like, what's keeping BYU from doing that? In my opinion, nothing. And that's all you can ask, is a puncher's chance on the right stage, and not to be disqualified for something as, superfluous as conference affiliation.
Well said. It's Kalani's birthday, so we started the show asking folks the question, if you could give Kalani the gift of a win among the remaining teams on the schedule for his birthday, who would it be? Who would you give him?
Oklahoma, because they're having beaten Texas, they're the big dog now, and being part of that 2009 team, I feel like that was such a hallmark even back then, and it's so remembered. And to be the best, you got to beat the best. And even if they don't happen to be able to beat all the rest of the teams, if you can beat the, number one seed in the conference, which is, you look at Oklahoma's schedule. I mean, the reality is the Big 12 is a gauntlet, so Oklahoma could lose any given week. But at this stage, it's looking like they're going to be undefeated in conference play by the time that they line up against the Cougars. So as much as I want that win over Texas, because I get so tired of the media hyping up Texas every year and then falling short every year, as much as I'd love that one, I would give the nod to Oklahoma, because they're sitting atop right now.
Do Riley and I have to be on the same page on everything tonight?
Well, you guys are quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The only difference is you are right-handed and he was a left-handed.
Over the years, Riley and I we've noticed that we do think alike on a lot of things, for sure.
You betcha.
So, Riley, I know you've been thinking about this, and let's roll it out for the world to hear. The top 5 left-handed quarterbacks of all time. Top 5 quarterbacks, you can drop names left and right. Top 5 left-handed quarterbacks, you have to think that through. And so who do you got?
Well, first of all, have you guys already laid out yours, or are you saving yours for the end of the show?
No. We don't even have ours. We're not left-handed.
Oh, so this is a lefties honor only. Okay, then I'm honored.
This is you.
You get to do this.
Okay. All right.
Now you can go 1 through 5 or 5 to 1.
The top left-handed quarterback in Utah high school football history is Riley, without question.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Although I got one on my list who a lot of people forget about.
84 touchdowns and over 4,000 yards.
Tell me it's not going to be. Tell me it's not going to be the analyst of the Utes.
Okay, all right, I'll get there, Dave.
Okay.
No. Number one, there's no other alternative. Like, he is. You want to? He could be argued for top 5 all time, no matter what hand. That's number 8. We love him. Like, he's our man. He's our boy. It's Steve Young. It's not even
great
close.
choice.
Yeah.
Great choice.
He's the greatest. He's the greatest college quarterback to go on.
After number 1, it gets a little fuzzy.
But no, that's a hands down. We got to agree with you on that one, right?
Okay, who do you got? Who's next?
Mike Vick for me. So you mentioned
Vick, that's right.
You mentioned I like to run around.
Yeah.
He was. I was probably in middle school when he was at Virginia Tech, and then he was young as I was in high school, and I bought. He came out with this pair of Mike Vick cleats. I bought his cleats and running around and having that lefty arm and that lefty cannon. And of course, the controversy was tough to see, but the other aspect why I love him is he made right by that. He paid his debt to society. He changed his ways. He came back and with Andy Reid had a great little second life there with the Eagles.
Yeah.
But man, Mike Vick, man, even going all the way back to those Virginia Tech days and then the Falcons days and the Eagles days.
It was unstoppable.
Did you love
is there for me.
the relationship that he and Andy Reid, like, Andy Reid was just, no, I'll take him. He's like, I'll take him. And Mike Vick still to this day looks like to Andy Reid is not necessarily a father figure, but really maybe almost like a father figure. Like, hey, nobody else would take a chance on me. And Andy Reid said, I'll trust him. I'll take a chance on him.
And how about Ty Detmer? Was also a kind of a quarterback coach.
Ty was there with Mike Vick. So, it was – I love the relationship that Andy Reid and Michael Vick had back in those days.
Okay, number 3.
So, Blaine mentioned prep QBs, and my stats stand for themselves. It's interesting when you evaluate at a different level. People always talk about what they do beyond, but my number 3 prepped here at Springville High, and just like I will defend Zach to the death or Jaron to the death,
Go ahead,
all these guys that make it to the pros that prepped here in Utah for little kids like me growing up in Logan. It's great to see that someone growing up in Utah, which is so often overlooked from a prep football standpoint, when they make it to the league, you got to have their back. And so, Scott Mitchell is my number 3.
Good friend of mine, and he's never going to be the same after hearing this on our show.
We're teasing about it because we both love Scott, and he's a good friend of both of ours. But
so here's the other reason why Scott. Okay. We talk about formidable years. First Madden game I got, my favorite player at that time was Barry Sanders. I want to be a running back. My dad was a running back in college. Like, I was going to be a running back. So, of course, I play with the Lions when it's Barry. Well, in both Madden and NFL Blitz, which were my 2 favorite games, who was the quarterback on the Lions during those years? It was Scott Mitchell. Yeah. So, unbeknownst to me, I didn't even know he prepped at Springville. I didn't know he's from Utah, played at University of Utah. But I played more video games with Scott Mitchell at quarterback. Granted, I was handing it off 90% of the time to Barry Sanders, but still played more video games with Scott Mitchell as a quarterback than any other one.
There's a great story with Scott because had he chosen to come to BYU, Ty Detmer would not have come to BYU because they're in the same wheelhouse. And he goes to Utah because they promised he could play as a freshman.
Well, and then Ty came in. What they told Scott Mitchell still blows me away. They told him, listen, we may have Ty Detmer coming in too, so if it doesn't work out at quarterback, we think you're a good athlete, we'll move you to another position.
Yeah, that doesn't fly.
And Utah said to him, no, you're our starting dude the minute you get out of your car on campus. And so he went to Utah.
All right, so Mitchell's
15,000 yards in the pros, 95 TDs.
Okay, we've talked enough about Scott. Let's move on to number 4. We're never going to hear the end of it.
Not for his professional exploits, although he had an honorable career. It's hard to make it in the NFL, but this guy, I don't know if it could be greatest, but when you take into account hype, notoriety, attention, and then also results, even though that also, there's been a few controversy or a few documentaries made about some of the times there, but none due to him as the root cause. In fact, if anything, he was the glue holding it all together. But Tim Tebow, I think
Tim Tebow,
all levels of college football, as far as the product it might not be there with the NFL, but it is a 1A. And Tim Tebow was the king of college football for the better part of 3 years.
Yep,
he will always have that slant pass with Denver to beat the Steelers in the playoffs. So he will always
Demarius
have that.
Thomas. He'll always have that.
In college, he was an unstoppable force because he would just run over fools in college and then throw it like he was an amazing player in college. We got to give him credit.
Good choice. I didn't even think of Tim Tebow. All right, there's number 5. What do you
got? Number 5 is, again, this one goes back to formidable. And so, guys, growing up an Aggie fan, I couldn't like Steve Young. Like, that wasn't acceptable on the playgrounds. All right, because he went to BYU.
Yeah.
So in the league at that time, there was another lefty out there, about 6-foot lefty, running around playing for the expansion team, Jacksonville Jaguars. Mark Brunell is my number 5.
Mark Brunell.
So I'll give you some honorable mentions.
Okay.
Because
we got a couple suggestions for you too on the live stream. So go ahead.
The chat's throwing some out here that I thought a couple.
So here's my honorable mentions. The next one. I just didn't watch him play, and I got to be honest, I don't know enough about his career other than, I love the persona, and I believe, if I'm getting his nickname right, it's one of the best, but Kenny the Snake Stabler.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great player at college. He got the nickname the Snake because he would run all over the place in college at Alabama.
Yeah.
And then he won
those,
Super Bowls
with the Raiders. With the long, nasty hair, stringy hair, he just had that persona that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boomer. But I gotta be honest, guys, the Bengals were never really relevant for me growing up, especially when Boomer Esiason was playing there. I like him as an analyst. I respect, his entire career, but like there was nothing playing for the Bengals. And I mean, there's nothing really like giving me allegiance to Boomer other than
Boomer Esiason. Yeah.
Other than he's a Hall of Famer, right?
I think so.
I think he is. He's been a host to analysts on some big network.
He sounds
NFL
like one
shows.
when he's on TV.
Yeah.
Jim Zorn.
So anyway,
some of the guys on the stream threw out Jim Zorn from Seahawks.
Jim Zorn from Seahawks.
Jim Zorn's another one. Steve Largent throwing it down. My dad played in a high school all-star. It was a Utah versus Arizona. I believe. I think I'm getting my stories right, but I'm pretty sure. Anyway, played against Jim Zorn. So I heard stories about Jim Zorn, but he was, by the time I kind of became aware and an NFL fan, he wasn't there yet. But I know Jim Zorn though more as a coach and as a quarterback. Like he was grooming a lot of those guys coming up in the early 2000s, and a great offensive mind, a great quarterback.
Yeah,
Riley, go ahead.
I got two more honorable mentions.
Okay.
Member of the faith. Converted member of the faith, and the greatest.
Yes.
Had one of the greatest collegiate careers that anyone could ever ask for. 4-year starter, so many big games. One of the most accurate, poised, best decision makers I've ever watched play. Kept Boise in the limelight after kind of the initial, they had the initial win in the Fiesta Bowl and all that, but he kept them relevant and competing at the top. Kellen Moore.
Yeah, that's a great
Kellen
choice.
Moore's my next honorable mention.
And did you know that Kellen's so he's married to Julie. Julie's dad was a defensive back at BYU. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Julie Wilson's dad was a defensive back here at BYU back in the 70s. So he married a BYU football player's daughter. So of course, eventually he was going to join the faith. And I'm with you, Kellen Moore. He's the winningest quarterback in the history of college football. That's all you have to say, right?
Yep.
About Kellen.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, he was must-see TV. Anytime Boise was on and he was pulling the trigger, you watch that. One of the prettiest deep balls, that left-hand release. And then my last one, because we got to keep it all in the fraternity, and I apologize to any of the older generation that maybe I would have missed out, but I do remember this dude. I especially remember him in a game in Romney Stadium. I think it was in '98 when Utah State was up, I think 28-3 at halftime, maybe even 31-3. Utah State was up 28-3 at halftime or 31-3, and a little lefty from Canada comes back and leads them to a 34-31 victory. Kevin Federick is the next to my honorable mention. We're all in the BYU fraternity. Kevin, had a good little run there. I think I'm pretty sure he holds the single game yards record. Is that right?
He might.
I think he threw for like 600 plus against Hawaii at some point. But anyway, Kevin's my last honorable mention. So there you go, fellas. There's my list. Who else did I forget?
Riley, you named every left-handed quarterback that ever played the game. So I think we've got him. I think we've got him all
Tua
covered.
Tagovailoa is the only one.
Tua, that's right.
Stick together, but I appreciate what he did at Alabama. But for me to put him on the list of greats, he's got a little bit more work to do.
During your enlightenment there, the Coug dude joined us from Modesto, Steve from Olympia, Washington, Eric checked in from Singapore, and Richard from Panama. So the whole world just heard your top five. And your 5 honorable mentions.
I love it when, hey, just check. It's morning in Singapore, but I'm listening to Wise Guys. Or, hey, we're down in Panama. It's so fun to have. We were just saying we value our fans in Lehigh and Provo. But it's really cool when people get on in the morning from the other the other side
Australia,
of the world. Really cool.
That. Riley, give us a score for Saturday. What do you got?
Yeah, man, Cougars always find a way to generate more points than kind of their yards justify. And you mentioned that TCU is going to be giving up a little bit more yards. I think they cracked 40 for the first time. And then I think they struggle. I kind of think this one. I think because of the injury, and I think the offense is going to have a get-right game, and because of their propensity to kind of overproduce on the scoreboard, 42-28. We serve them. We give them a little bit of payback for all those tough losses during the Patterson years.
Wow, 42-28. All right,
Mr. Football.
Life's too short to cheer for unders, guys.
That's right.
Life's too short to ever throw out a score that's like less than 50 or 60 nowadays. So
Vegas.
that's why I'm going high.
Vegas loves guys like you. They love that mentality.
I love it.
Mr. Football 2005 Deseret News, 84 touchdowns up at Logan High, 4,000 yards. Fantastic high school career, and one of our favorite BYU players of all time. Riley Nelson, thanks for joining us, and we hope to catch you soon.
Hey, and you know what? I never get to see your dad anymore, Riley, so give Keith a big hug from me when you see him, okay?
I will. I'll give him my best. And I just want to say to everybody chiming in, Panama, like, you guys don't know, your involvement in Cougar Nation and tuning in to stuff like this gets mentioned. We talked about recruiting a little bit earlier in the interview.
Yeah.
It gets mentioned in those recruiting about, like, the depth and breadth and true global nature of is truly setting apart. So for everybody that tunes in, and you guys are doing a great show, increasing the platform and all that, but love Cougar Nation. Thanks to you guys for having me on, and y'all have a good evening.
Thanks,
Thank
Riley.
you.
See
Glad
you,
your
brother.
ribs are better, and your back and your knee and your ankle and all that stuff. It's
Yeah,
a whole
you
new
bet.
you. It's a whole new you. Thanks, Riley. Our future guests next week, Brian McKenzie going to join the Wise Guys.
Yeah.
Marcus is the trigger man on special teams.
The great running back, Brian McKenzie, produced a corner.
And Dominique is on his mission. He'll soon
Dominique,
have
who's
both
gonna
here.
Come back and play wide receiver. Two of the fastest recruits in BYU history, Brian's boys.
Brandon Doman and Wally Joyner are going to join us October 24th as we get ready for
We
Texas.
always love having Brandon. How about having Wally come join us?
Right in the World Series. It's going to be awesome.
Wally is do you remember the days when it was Wally World? Like,
Yeah.
they literally are calling Anaheim Stadium Wally World
yeah.
because Wally Joyner was just dominating Major League Baseball.
We're going to go back in time with Wally Joyner.
Yeah.
He's excited. Our next guest is Karin Nelson. No relation to Riley Nelson, our previous
It's
guest.
an all Nelson show tonight.
The BYU Alumni Chair in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where they're getting ready to host the Cougars this weekend as BYU comes to play TCU. And Karin, we welcome you to the Wise Guys. Thank you for waiting a little bit. Riley proceeded to discuss every left-handed quarterback that played in the game
history of college football.
football, and
Because he had an honorable mention list, too.
and we just let him roll. How are you tonight? Hope we're going to hit your audio button. There we go. Let's start again. How are you tonight?
Good.
Oh,
there
good.
we go.
What? How excited is everybody to have the 4-1 Cougars coming to town?
Oh, we're very excited. We love our Cougars to come to Texas.
Are they playing better than you thought in this first year in the Big 12?
Absolutely. How exciting is that?
Yeah. Hey, initially, when we talked about this early in the show, TCU was working hard to limit the ticket access for BYU fans. I mean, they came right out and said, we're going to make it tough for BYU fans to have a stadium takeover. Did that ease up at all for BYU fans as this game has gotten closer? And how many Cougar fans do you expect to see in that stadium on Saturday?
That is a very good question. No, they haven't eased up. They have a Keep It Purple campaign, which has been very difficult for us, but it never keeps our Cougars away. So it is impossible to know how many tickets because they were all sold through third-party vendors. So we have no idea how many are going to be there, but I expect there's going to be a great crowd there.
If given the opportunity, you'd put 20,000 BYU fans in there, couldn't you? If it was the old TCU days.
Easy, we could do that. That's why they actively tried to keep us out because they know we can do that.
Well, we had a great response to the book drive in Kansas and filling a food pantry in Arkansas with the BYU Alumni Service projects around these road games. What project are you guys rolling out?
We are doing a good night's sleep campaign for the refugee families that are coming into Texas. Our chapter over the last several years has been heavily involved with helping our refugee families. And we are so excited to be able to launch our Good Night Sleep campaign for this tailgate. We are collecting pillows, blankets, sheets, any kind of bedding, comforters, mattress covers, so that we can provide those refugee families a wonderful good night's sleep.
Hey, is there a way that people that are listening to us or that may come and listen to the podcast later on that are not attending the game or that live outside of the Dallas area, is there a way for them to contribute and help with this project?
Absolutely. We are working with a partner, Action Alliance International, and they have set up a Walmart wish list as well as a Venmo. And both of those people can contribute to either one of those.
Amber from New York on our live stream tonight says, hey, what great energy to see in Karin as an alum who's not going to be in Texas, but now has information of how she can get involved and help out. This isn't just a football game when BYU hits the road, is it?
It's not. It is so much bigger than that, and we are so excited to be able to contribute to and serve the people of Fort Worth.
Karin Nelson is with us, the BYU alumni chair from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She's making her debut on the Wise Guys.
Yeah, are you nervous to be on the Wise Guys?
It's her debut.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Hey, tell us what else is going on with the BYU alums in this area around the game this Saturday, in addition to the service project.
We have an amazing tailgate all planned. We hope everyone will come and join us. Because of the limited seating in the stadium, I have gotten some great big screen TVs. So anybody that comes to the tailgate, we will be able to watch the game from the tailgate.
Oh, nice.
We are going to Texas barbecue. We're going to have lots and lots of games. Cosmo and the cheerleaders, of course, are coming to get us ready to cheer our Cougars on, and there will be all kinds. There's going to be mint brownies and cougar tails. It's going to be a great time. We hope everyone will come.
Dave served his mission down Texas, and everybody always talks about, like, Texas has the best barbecue. You can't beat. There's no other state that has better barbecue than Texas. The question I have is it true that the best barbecue? Well, no, is that the best barbecue? That the barbecue place has to be attached to a gas station, or it's really not the best. Is that true?
That is true, and the barbecue at our tailgate is from a gas station.
That's awesome.
That is great. Dirk is with us from New Mexico on our live stream. I know you've been studying up for this next question. What are the keys for BYU to get a win out of there on Saturday?
Ooh, I hope that the Cougar fans in that stadium can get them really excited. I think it's obviously going to be offense, right? We need our Cougar score.
Right, Riley Nelson just predicted they were going to score. What do you say, 48? I go back and look at
42.
Well,
42-28.
Riley has them 42-28. I'd be flabbergasted if they scored 42, but that's awesome.
So you've been in Texas for a long time. Now that BYU starts popping in as a member of the Big 12 Conference, how big of a deal is it for the alumni in the area?
Oh, we're so excited. We always, whenever any sport has come to Texas, we've always had a great turnout, and we are super excited now to be able to have them regularly. I think it's got everybody so excited.
If now that flag that you've got flying behind you, I'm assuming that's going to be outside on a flagpole someplace on display on Saturday, right? Or do you have another one?
30 of those flags flying.
Okay. That's what I wanted to hear. So we've been asking everybody as we started the show this question, if you could give Kalani the gift for his birthday today of a win among the remaining teams on the schedule for his birthday, what would it be?
Well, TCU.
That's what I figured.
That makes perfect sense.
I'm giving him the Oklahoma game, but
a lot of people have been saying Oklahoma, Texas, but you're right. There have been a few, including you, let's just start with the very next one, which is on Saturday.
Well, that would get him to 5-1, which would be an amazing start and way beyond anyone's expectations if they could get this one Saturday.
Karin, we're going to roll out 5 questions at you, and this is where we're going to reveal who you are to the general public like never before. That's what we do here on the Wise Guys. Blaine, you ready?
Yep. Here we go. Your favorite sports movie?
Oh, The Blind Side.
Blind Side.
Oh,
good
yeah.
one.
Sandra Bullock is great in that, and Tim McGraw, right?
Tim McGraw, yeah, he's like her husband.
Yeah, wow.
The singer.
That's amazing. So, your favorite? Hey, speaking of singers, your favorite singer or band?
Oh, that is. Oh, I don't know that I could pick a favorite.
Well, what's the one that you'd listen
what just
to?
Popped into your head?
Just listen to.
I mean, Tim McGraw popped into your head because I just said his name, but that doesn't count.
How about Little Texas?
Little Texas.
Okay, Little Texas.
That's appropriate.
Yep. Your favorite breakfast cereal?
mini wheats.
Mini wheats.
Oh,
Is there any frost on that, or is it just straight mini wheats?
Please tell me the frosted mini wheats, not just the
Oh,
plain old.
frosted, frosted.
Because the plain old one, you might as well just go out into a hayfield and just
take
get
a
some
bite.
hay and just put milk on it.
Just go take a bite.
So thanks for the frosted.
Okay.
Your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, Grand Canyon from the Creamery.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
popular
that's
one.
a very popular one. And your favorite BYU memory?
The BYU football games, actually camping out the night before to get tickets for the BYU football games.
Yo, what was the best game you ever saw in the stadium?
When we beat Miami.
Oh, were you
Where
in
were
the
you
stadium
sitting?
for that one? Oh,
I was
man.
I was on the field. It was the most incredible. I will never forget it.
I will not either.
Yard line.
Oh, really? And so did you see Ty running off like a crazy man to get to the locker room when the game was over?
Yes.
What a game. What a night. I would agree that is as electric as I have ever seen LaBelle Edwards Stadium.
Hey,
Something.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Corinne, where do folks go to get information on the tailgate? Do they need to sign up, or can they just show up? And where can they find a map to where you are?
They can just show up, but I would really love it if they would sign up ahead of time because it helps me with numbers. And they can go to, if you Google BYU tailgates, it has all of the tailgates listed, and just click on the BYU TCU game and you can buy tickets right there.
Okay.
Awesome.
The link's in. There we go. Yeah, Jack just put the link in just as we were asking that question. So it's right there for folks that are following. Just click on the link and register so that Corinne knows how many people are coming to this thing.
So look, when you're at
If you show up on game day, you are not guaranteed barbecue because I have to order that.
What if Dave and I just show up just out of the blue?
Well, then I will make sure you get barbecue.
Oh, that's awesome of you.
that's what we want to hear. That's awesome. So look, when you're at the tailgate, let everyone know you're on the Wise Guys this week, and your street cred will plummet, but then you'll be able to get it back.
Yeah.
But we're just glad to have you hang out with us for a little bit.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy all the Cougar fanness. Get us a win down there, and we will talk to you soon. Now that we're coming every other year, probably, we expect to be a regular on our show.
Well, I sure hope so. I would love that.
All right, Corinne, have a great weekend.
Thanks, Corinne.
So much.
Karin Nelson, so she's in charge of all that BYU tailgate service project, and of course she's got an army there working with her because that's how the Alumni Association does it.
Don't you love that every place that BYU goes, when they go to play a football game, they leave that place better than they found it. But with these service projects, they've had such great participation in service projects and are doing a lot of good in those communities.
Ross says, heading to Fort Worth for the game. Wish TCU had played better last week. Hard to believe they can play that badly 2 weeks in a row. Well, they've lost 2 in a row, so this would be a third week in a row.
Yeah.
But we'll see. BYU's going down there hungry and ready to get after it. So have a great time at that game, and we appreciate all the comments. Saratoga Springs in with us, and everybody else on the live stream. And great to have Corinne. We love having the alumni leaders on here. Because, the purpose of this show is to kind of pull everyone together.
Yep.
And right now, the world of Cougar Nation is heading to Fort Worth this weekend, and it sounds like it's going to be an awesome tailgate party.
Yep. Hey, somebody just a little bit ago, further up on the chat, mentioned that he missed us at 5 o'clock today. He was looking for after further review.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a bye week, so we had after further review last week. By the way, you can watch last week's after further review on the BYU TV app, and then we're back with a whole new show next Tuesday at 5 o'clock Mountain Time on BYU on the TV app and on ESPN+. We'll break down the TCU game, and then we will preview the October 21st showdown against Texas Tech. That's the first Cougars Red Raiders game in 83 years. 83 years. So after further review next week, just before an all-new Wise Guys.
And thanks, Joel. Joel Harris says, welcome back, Blaine. So appreciate him welcoming me back to the country.
Belo was here last week. We were loose with the rules last week. It was something else.
Because Belo was here.
Because Belo was here.
When Belo's here, you can't. stop them. You can only hope to contain them just a little bit. So
we contained them to 2 hours.
And I was gone. I was out of the. Well, actually, last week I was in Dallas at a meeting, and then went straight from Dallas to Amsterdam, and then home from Amsterdam overnight last night and into today. So thanks, Joel. It's good to be back in the good old United States and back on the show. One
of the big stories this week. And would love for everyone on our live stream to join us and give us your opinion on this. Is all of a sudden news popped up that negotiations are back on and continuing to bring Gonzaga into the Big 12 for basketball. An announcement that a lot of folks are reporting could be next week or in 2 weeks or even early into the new year. But that looks like it's probably going to happen. We were talking about it before.
Right.
And then Arizona joined the league. And so let's talk about it for a moment. Do we need Gonzaga in the Big 12? Is it overkill just to bring in another top 10 powerhouse? And is that good for BYU? I don't think it is good for BYU.
Is it good for Gonzaga?
It's great for Gonzaga, but we're not worried about Gonzaga.
Yeah.
What does this mean for BYU? Is it good for BYU for the Big 12 to add more beef and bring in Gonzaga?
It was already the best basketball league in America without question, and it's not close, right? And now you add the Zags. Would you add the Zags? Would you do it? Well, it depends on what your goal is.
World domination? Then yes.
Then you might as well go get UConn too, right?
Right.
Add another top 10 team because they talked about that as well. UConn for all sports, and maybe we'll hear that coming down the pipe later.
Yeah, maybe that'll come back up. But the Zags thing
the league doesn't need Gonzaga to have credibility, but I think your mark's just like, you know what? We're going to make this so far and away the best basketball conference in America that nobody's ever going to, no matter who they add, nobody's ever going to catch this league in basketball. No. And by adding Gonzaga and perhaps UConn down the road, you kind of do that.
Ruthie says we don't need Gonzaga.
Well, they don't need them, but it certainly gives the league even more credibility.
And here's what the Zags do bring. They trend young in their research. Mm-hmm. When Gonzaga is playing somebody, more people watch. Mm-hmm. They're the Cinderella story of the 80s, but then the Cinderella transformed into they're an every year top 10.
They're a top 10 team.
They're not a Cinderella story anymore. They're a powerhouse.
They get top 10 recruit. They got 2 national players of the year back-to-back recruits.
And they persecuted BYU in the West Coast Conference.
Well, and here's an interesting thing though. For Gonzaga, be careful what you wish for if you're Gonzaga.
Right.
I mean, you and I have tremendous respect for Mark Few, and we like Mark, and he's done a tremendous job. But they just go win the WCC every year and win that tournament every year, and it's just a given. And we've done that tournament, you and I, for the last 10 years. We just assume they're going to win that tournament every year.
And they do most of the time.
They're not going to go win the Big 12 every year.
No. Joel says round ball plus. If the Big 12 doesn't get them, someone will. And the question is, Pac-12's disappearing. What, are they going to go to the ACC and decide we want to play all our games on the other side of the country? Big Ten's not going to. They're not interested in Gonzaga, and neither is the SEC.
Right.
So I don't know. If we don't take them, they just stay, I think.
Yeah, they just stay in the WCC. They're still great. They still go out, and they're still a top 10 team. But who knows? Maybe this allows them to be even better. Is that possible? Now maybe it does. Maybe they get another top 10 player every year.
What it is it's not good for BYU.
No, because that's just another juggernaut that BYU has to compete with.
Yeah, and that's not to say BYU can't elevate and recruit and enjoy all the benefits that come from being in the Big 12 in time, because there's a recruiting base and all that. But man, it just makes life more difficult.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
And it's going to be super hard to begin with. So when I heard of Gonzaga, I thought, if we just want to be better than everybody else, sure. But if you look at it and go, what does it mean to my team? It's not good.
It's just one more really good team to have.
It's not bothering Kansas. So I go, sweet, give us another big RPI game. So
Kansas
what?
Doesn't care. Baylor doesn't care.
No.
You know what?
Arizona doesn't care.
Kansas State doesn't care.
Yeah. Texas Tech, I'm not sure they care. But you know who cares? BYU cares.
Houston doesn't care.
Utah would care.
Iowa State cares. Utah cares. Colorado cares. BYU cares.
Arizona State cares.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll keep you posted. But that is the buzz going on with Gonzaga, which died down, and now it is back.
It's back. So
Cougars in the NFL. What a weekend. Let's roll through a couple of those.
Yeah. How about Puka again? 7 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown, a 23-14 loss to the Eagles. He just keeps rolling. And guess what? We've been asking what happens when Cooper Kupp comes back. Well, when Cooper Kupp comes back, they both catch 7 or more balls.
Yeah. Cooper Kupp had like 95 yards.
They didn't stop targeting Puka. That's one of the top receiver combos in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and it's must see. The Rams now, they've got a running back, they got a quarterback, they got those 2 receivers, they got Higbee, a decent tight end. They're in the league now that is points.
Yeah,
they're in it. They got a shot to make some noise.
And Puka is not only making a push for the Rookie of the Year in the National Football League because he's just setting all kinds of. He's making a push to be in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
as a rookie.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to think of the last BYU player that was a Pro Bowler as a rookie. I
can't think of one.
Well, Isaac Hema was.
Was he as a rookie?
Yeah, he was a rookie. He was a Pro Bowl punt returner.
Oh yeah, we heard that story. It got him there.
Yeah. So has there been a rookie BYU player in the Pro Bowl since Vi?
I don't think
1986? That's a long time. And Puka's making a push if he can keep it rolling.
Zach Wilson got a win over Denver for the Jets, 31-21. He was 19 of 26, 199 yards, had an interception, but he got the win. I thought there was a time where he'd completed, I think, like 14 of 16 passes or something. He got in his groove. Jets went on the road. They play the Eagles coming up, and then after that, their schedule gets a little lighter. They can get to the playoffs with Zach Wilson.
Broncos were a nice break because they have played murderer's row in that league of defenses, and he just seems to be getting more and more comfortable. Wouldn't you just love to see him just go on a roll?
Yeah,
and just shut everybody up.
Yeah.
I thought he played really well this last week. How about Fred Warner?
That's
sack,
who Zach
an
should avoid.
A forced fumble, and a 42-10 win over the Cowboys, who were supposed to be the best team in the league.
If Zach sees Fred, he should just go in the other direction as fast as he can.
Fred, who was I was seeing somebody, Sam Acho, talking about him on one of the big NFL shows, and he said he's a transcendent player. Like he's not just the best linebacker. Like he's one of the best players in the league, period.
Yeah, and he's smart. He's great with the media. He loves the game. He's having fun out there. He's the epitome of what the NFL would love to have as a linebacker.
Oh, he is.
In every market.
He is special player.
Yeah, and such a good dude.
This week's games start with Thursday's game. Hey, by the way, I won my fantasy league. I was playing my grandson.
I won my first game this week.
I won by .06. I almost felt bad.
Oh.
That's 6 yards for one player.
Teach your young grandson.
He needed one of his players to get 6 more yards to beat me.
Tell him a win's a win.
Win's a win. So
just win and move on.
So Thursday, the Broncos at the Chiefs. So Andy Reid's Chiefs, and that's one. The Chiefs
with Kelsey
handle.
banged up, maybe Matt Bushman can get back in the active roster.
Chiefs will handle business in that one. Mark my words.
Sunday, Tyler Algier got a little more carries this week. The Falcons host the Commanders.
And then the Colts and Blake Freeland are at the Jags. Blake Freeland got a start here, his first start just a couple of weeks ago.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Panthers at the Dolphins. Chris Brooks seems to keep getting in.
Keep getting in and getting some reps. The Vikings with Jaron Hall and Kyrus Tonga are at the Bears this Sunday.
Fred Warner and the Niners are at the Browns, where he'll reunite with Sione Takitaki.
Two of the best backers that have come through BYU in a long time, both representing their teams. And then the Saints and Taysom Hill and Jamal Williams are at the Texans.
Kyle Van Noy back with the Ravens, back in the NFL with the Ravens, and they play at the Steelers.
That's right. And the Cardinals are at the Rams, and we already documented how fun the Rams are to watch with Puka Nacua. Yeah, I find myself just looking for the Rams now with Puka there.
Yeah, and Eagles are at the Jets. That's going to be a tough one for Zach, but he's going up against one of the 2 undefeated teams in the NFL. Right. I'll tell you what, the Jets' schedule out of the gate.
Can you believe this
is
schedule?
Unbelievable. How did they get that tough of a schedule?
Yeah, it's one of
the
the
good
worst
news is it doesn't stay that tough, but my word.
One of the worst in the league through this number of weeks, and then it eases off a little bit.
And then Monday night, Michael Davis is going to get a chance to pick off Dak Prescott, and he appears to be throwing interceptions left and right. Cowboys at the Chargers Monday night.
So, hey, how about some campus headlines?
Let's do it.
Soccer is now 11-1-3. Do you hate that they have ties?
Yeah, I really do.
I want PKs for wins.
Or at least some overtime.
Play some extra time.
Do something.
So 11-1-3.
Did you realize they have 10 ties in the last season and a half?
I know.
10.
Yeah. Well, when they get into the national playoffs, then they
play it through.
Have playoffs. So new ranking, they're number 8 in Top Drawer Soccer. The coaches poll come out yet?
Yeah, it just came out. They're number 8. They dropped a spot from 7 to 8.
So 7 to 8. So they're 8 in both polls then. They tied number 7 Texas Tech 2-2.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, defeated Kansas State 2-0. That's their first Big 12 home win.
That was Monday. That was good.
Thursday, they're at Oklahoma State, 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus, and then Monday, they're at Oklahoma, 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus.
This is the swing where Thursday, Monday, which can be challenging for a team that doesn't practice on Sunday.
Right.
But it's Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. That's so much better than, we love Pepperdine and Pacific, but Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are different.
Yep.
And that's the league they're in. Volleyball's 14-3, 3-2 in the Big 12, moved up a spot to number 9 in the top 25. They beat Oklahoma 3-0, went over to Norman and swept them. Great response after dropping back-to-back matches with Texas the week before. They are at home Friday against Texas Tech, 7 o'clock Mountain on ESPN Plus at the Smith Fieldhouse, and same thing on Saturday night. So the Red Raiders are here for 2, Friday and Saturday on ESPN Plus.
And they get those. That's how they had the 2 losses in Texas. Yeah. You go on the road and you go back-to-backs against the same team.
So that's a chance to shore up, get to 16-3 and keep moving.
Yep. So how about cross country? One of the premier programs at BYU. Number 3, BYU's men's team at the Nuttycombe, Wisconsin Invitational on Friday. National champion Connor Rooks is making his season debut at this meet.
So the last time he ran, he finished 10th in the world.
Yeah.
And now he's coming after a Big 12 championship.
Oh, he's good. Is there any doubt?
No. And he's got a team of.
Oh, they're deep.
They're deep.
They're deep.
The women are ranked number 6. They're in Virginia on Saturday of this week at the XC23 Pre-Nationals Invitation, and that team is also outstanding. Cougar Stats put out an interesting stat today.
Oh, yeah, about the combined, right? So they put a graphic out that shows BYU's fall sports team. So they count football, soccer, and women's volleyball, how they stack up against the rest of the Big 12. So BYU's in first place. They're 29-5-3.
That's amazing. Think about that.
Yeah, Texas is 2 at 26-7-2. Central Florida 25-10 at number 3. Oklahoma State is in fourth at 14-7, and TCU is in 5th at 23-13-2. So they're ahead of Texas,
which has the largest athletic budget in America.
Country. Yep.
And BYU in their first year at this level of competition so far is outdueling the Longhorns.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's pretty amazing.
Chicago Marathon over the weekend. Former Cougar national champion Connor Mance was the top American finisher and 6th overall with a time of 2:07.47. And then
that's flying.
Former Cougar Clayton Young was the second best American finisher, 7th overall. He was at 2:08.10. They're both going to compete in the U.S. trials in February for a spot at the Olympics, where they can go over and see Jimmer once Jimmer makes that team.
Jimmer's going to be in 3-on-3 in Paris.
In Paris next summer. Track and field head coach Ed Eyestone's been on the show before. He was on the broadcast team announcing the Chicago Marathon. Here come his guys.
He says, I do it once in a while. Every once in a while I do a show.
How about that? He's doing that, and here come not only are 2 of his guys, they're the top American finishers.
Yeah.
What a day for BYU.
His credibility was all time this last weekend. So pretty fun stuff. And Chicago's one of the big ones. You've got New York, Boston, Chicago, Berlin. What's the other one I'm trying to? But Chicago's a big marathon. So that's really cool. They get international folks from all over the world. So PGA Tour. Congrats to former Cougar Patrick Fishburne, who is moving on from the Korn Ferry Tour after earning his PGA Tour card.
You got his card. That's something you and I will never have.
No, we won't. We play with PGA Tour card holders sometimes.
Yeah, yes, we do. And we
don't compete.
No, we don't.
We just play for fun.
Men's hoops. Mark Pope's ready to roll it out. Midnight Madness. That's October 19th. The Blue-White game is October 26th. You and I will be on the
BYU
call.
TV, yep.
Exhibition openers Live Pacific, November 1st.
We got that.
We'll be on that one. And then the season opener is against Houston Christian on November 6th. And we've got that one too.
Yeah, on ESPN Plus. You know, call it for ESPN Plus.
It's going to be busy and to have basketball and football now.
Well, that crossover time for us gets a little bit crazy, but lots of fun. We don't mind it.
No.
Nobody's complaining here.
No.
Our job, go talk about football and have fun with our friends, and then we go sit courtside and watch some of the greatest athletes in the world run up and down and talk about basketball. It's not a bad gig.
Yeah, and Mark Pope is excited about his guys. You can kind of see it in his eyes when he addresses the media.
So, hey, how about the top 25? Gary Parrish of CBS Sports, he gave out his preseason top 25. So here's a little Big 12 update for you. Number 1 is Kansas. Number 7 is Houston. Number 18 is Baylor. Number 20 is Texas. And then BYU plays San Diego State again this year. That's a great rivalry. Dutch and his guys are going to come in. Brian Dutcher, who's a good friend of ours. San Diego State's 13th in the preseason poll. They'll be at the Marriott Center on Friday, November 10th.
And we'll be on that game. That's also on ESPN Plus. That'll be fun. That place will be rocking.
Yeah, we love it when the Aztecs come into town.
Aztecs win the championship game last year.
And the Rock is always rocking for that. And vice versa, when BYU goes down and plays in Viejas, the show is always out in full form. It really is a great college basketball rivalry.
And what
the
a
Aztecs and the Cougs.
What a strange time for San Diego State. Remember, in the summer, they thought they were going to the Pac-12. And so, basketball is like, hey, we're just in the national championship game.
Yeah.
Now we're going to the Pac-12. We have arrived. And then the Pac-12 dissolves in front of their eyes, and they go back to the Mountain West because there's nowhere to go. We thought maybe the Big 12 would pick them up, and they didn't.
I'm surprised they didn't.
Just
actually.
crazy to the impact. We talk about the impact the alignment had on all the teams that moved into new places. San Diego State was one they thought they were going, and then they weren't, and they're back in their old place. That wasn't a great expansion story.
What about Oregon State and Washington State?
Yeah, their story's still unfolding.
Yeah, what's going to happen with? I mean, it's just craziness. So
women's basketball, they were picked 11th in the Big 12 preseason poll. We should get the men's poll out, I think, this week.
Yeah.
Texas is number 1, followed by Baylor and Kansas. BYU picked ahead of the other 3 newcomers: Houston, Cincinnati, and Central Florida.
And we've had Amber Whiting on the show, and she really likes the talent on this team. It's a very young basketball team, but from a pure talent perspective, if you take recruiting rankings, this is probably the best basketball team ever assembled on women's basketball at BYU. And so, there may be some ups and downs because of youth, but there's not a lack of talent on this basketball team.
They do have a veteran in the middle with Lauren Gustin. She was named preseason honorable mention. Keep that in mind. We're going to roll over a couple of stats. Last year, she led all NCAA divisions, men's or women's, by averaging 16.7 rebounds per game.
Yeah, she set a single-season program record, 552 rebounds last season.
27 double-doubles last year, second most in the country. All first-team WCC, co-defensive player of the year. And what does that get her when the Cougars move into the Big 12?
Honorable mention, all Big 12. Her former BYU teammate, Shaylee Gonzalez, who we called a lot of games that she played, also named honorable mention.
And honorable mention we're not sliding honorable mention.
No.
We're just saying that's the talent difference
in the talent
between the WCC and the Big 12. Superstar, honorable mention.
Right.
And that'll fuel her a little bit as she chases Tina Gunn's rebounding record.
That's right. For the women, exhibition opener November 1st against Westminster. That's 3 p.m. on Mountain Time. That'll be on BYU TV. The season opener's at Montana State on November 7th. And the home opener is Weber State. That'll be November 10th on ESPN+. On
this day, on October 10th, some interesting things happen. I love this segment of the show as we get close to wrapping up for another week. 1845, the Naval School opens in Annapolis, Maryland, becomes the U.S. Naval Academy.
That is one of the most beautiful campuses on the face of the earth. You've been back there.
I have not been to Navy.
Oh, my goodness. It is a beautiful place. 1845, wow. In 1886... a day that I don't like because I hate wearing these, but it's the day that the first tuxedo was worn to an autumn ball in Tuxedo Park, New York.
Where's Tuxedo Park? Do you know where that is?
I don't even know where it is, but I'm not happy about it because
who
wants to wear that tuxedo? Nobody.
Do you think that guy is burning in a hot place?
Tuxedo Park, New York.
Because when he came here to Earth, one of the things he did was he invented the tuxedo.
Yeah, something should have been done.
1961, the Bob Newhart Show premieres on NBC.
Yeah, in 1963, From Russia with Love premieres in London. That's the second James Bond film.
1963. You know, when you watch those, that's Sean Connery.
Yeah.
The gadgets are old school gadgets and all that stuff, but it's classic James Bond.
Who's the best James Bond for you?
I probably, you know what? Roger Moore was when when we were kids or teenagers. I like Daniel Craig. I like Sean Connery, but the new stuff was with the new guys.
Yeah.
And so you kind of go to that.
Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig I think is my favorite, but old school I like Sean Connery of the old school guys. So
he's classic.
So the Beach Boys released "Good Vibrations" on this day in 1966.
Wasn't that the theme for Orange Crush?
Yeah.
Wasn't that their thing? 1976.
Is the show even a show if I don't sing? I'm not going to do it tonight, though.
You're not going to do that one? The Giants Stadium opened up in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and the Cowboys beat the Giants appropriately 24-14.
I'm trying to think what year I played in Giant Stadium.
Now they don't even have didn't you play Boston College?
Yeah, we played them in 1985.
I think it was, yeah.
To open up the season. I think we played them there in 85. So, 1978, Steve Perry joins Journey.
He's not with Journey now.
That changed everything.
Yeah. 1978. Those were all Steve Perry was sang all the slow dance songs in high school.
Yep. 1994, the New York Giants retire Lawrence Taylor's number 56.
Has there been a better linebacker not named Fred Warner than Lawrence Taylor?
Lawrence Taylor's the greatest pass rushing linebacker in the history of the game. So he was something.
2017, on this day, Marvel premieres Thor Ragnarok in Los Angeles. Might be my favorite Marvel movie. It was so cleverly written. Ragnarok came out on this day.
That's Chris Hemsworth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife Brenda thinks he's a beautiful man. Who doesn't, right?
Shocked.
Who doesn't?
I'm not shocked to hear that.
October 10th birthdays. Speaking of singers, 1954, David Lee Roth of Van Halen.
1969, Brett Favre, quarterback.
Yeah, Ty Detmer's old teammate.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think that Brett Favre, Ty Detmer, Mark Brunell, and who am I missing? All quarterbacks on that same Green Bay Packers team. The Rams quarterback that was slinging it, that they made the movie about.
Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner. All on that same roster.
Wow.
That's a crazy quarterback roster. Maybe the greatest quarterback roster of all time.
Yeah, you might be right.
1974, Dale Earnhardt Jr., great NASCAR star was born on this day in 74.
The Coug Dude says, my first cassette as a kid was Beach Boys, and as an 80s kid that owned a 1966 Mustang, I'm an old soul, I guess.
He is an old soul.
You are an old soul. But, what did we do? Did we do Earnhardt already?
Yeah, I did Dale Earnhardt.
1975, on this day, Kalani Sitake, as we open the show with. He's the fourth youngest head coach in the Big 12 at 48.
75. October 10th, deaths. Yul Brynner, 1985. A great star of the Ten Commandments.
You know what the great line from
Yul Brynner was on Broadway in The King and I.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. The great line from that Ten Commandments is when he goes back after the sea had closed on all his troops, and he goes back, and his wife's right there giving him the business, and he says, his God is God. Yes. Of the 5-hour movie or whatever it is, that's the best line that Yul Brynner that I liked from Yul Brynner.
2004, Christopher Reeve, Superman. Like, he was the Superman of the movies, right? Paralyzed in a horse riding accident in 1995. He spent the next 9 years confined to a wheelchair and a breathing ventilator. Passed away in 2004.
I thought it was so ironic that, because we went to see all the Superman movies, and I just thought they were awesome. Truth, Justice, and the American Way. So here's this actor that portrays the Man of Steel and Invincible, and then is out riding his horse and has an accident,
his
and then
horse
that's
was
it.
his kryptonite. It was. And it's crazy.
So our Wise Guy's inspirational quote of the week comes from Christopher Reeve.
Yep. And Christopher Reeve says, once you choose hope, anything's possible. A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to preserve and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. If I can laugh, I can live. I'm not living the life I thought I would lead, but it does have meaning and purpose.
Christopher Reeve. What a great attitude. By the way, Mike Z, just me, got a comment in the live stream. Said, I was on my mission when Lawrence Taylor broke Joe Theismann's leg. We hadn't even, now the visual's back in my head.
Oh, man, I was trying to forget about that, Mike.
That was Lawrence Taylor, and yes, it was gruesome. I remember watching it on Monday Night Football, I think it was. And now that's what I'm thinking about.
Now, Now, you know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about your new book.
Yeah, let's put up a picture of the new book.
Yeah, C is for Cougars, the first BYU football children's alphabet book in the world.
Look, now we have some of the pages because you were gone last week.
Oh, that's right.
Now we have some of the pages.
Available at Deseret Book on November 7th. The perfect Christmas book for every BYU fan in the family. There's a legend behind every letter. We'll post the address for pre-orders in the chat. The book's just $14.99.
Funny story, when I reached out to Matt Zundell and I sent him a text.
Because how many Z's are there?
And not many. And he texted me back. He goes, because I had to get permission from everybody to be in the book. And he texted me back going, is this a prank? I say, no, it's me. And here's what I'm doing. He's like, I never ever thought anyone would ask that for permission from me to be in a book about BYU football. I go, well, you got the right last name.
He's got it, yes.
And he caught a couple of touchdowns, a couple from Ty Detmer.
I mean, you could have done Ziggy, but it's all last names.
It's all last names. So,
so you couldn't change just for Ziggy.
26 Cougars immortalized in C is for Cougar. It's like $14.99. So I hope every BYU fan and Utah fan
It's a great book, but it's a great coffee table book.
Absolutely, because two things are never going out of style: the alphabet and BYU football.
That's right.
So there we go. Hey, last week we play Caleb Chapman's Rise and Shout, but since you were gone, we saved it for this week.
Oh, yeah, because
we're coming off the win over
Cincinnati. You can only play it when there's a win.
So BYU beat Cincinnati, and when the Cougars win, Caleb Chapman of Caleb Chapman's Soundhouse, BYU alum, performs Rise and Shout on his saxophone. So tonight, we send you to bed with Rise and Shout after BYU's 35-27 win over Cincinnati. If anybody knows how hard it is to play Rise and Shout on the saxophone.
I love that little riff.
Add a little flavor.
At the end that he adds, and it's really fun.
Thanks, Caleb. Thanks to Riley Nelson and Karin Nelson. Riley, the former BYU quarterback. And I loved his top 5 left-handed quarterbacks of all time, and then I loved his top 5 honorable mentions.
Right. It's like basically he named every left-handed quarterback in the history of the game.
Yes, he did. And Scott Mitchell was on his top 5 all time. That's Scott, right. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And then, of course, Karin is the BYU alumni chair in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and those folks going to the game. And remember, she said, you don't even have to have a ticket because they're going to have TVs out in the tailgate.
Which I think is really cool.
Just go hang out.
Yep. And so, and don't forget, next week, we'll be back to break down the game and preview the Texas Tech game. We're going to have Brian McKenzie with us, a great running back. And the father of 2 Cougars.
Yeah, Marcus and Dominique.
Yep. Marcus, who's currently playing, Dominique, who's on a mission.
Dominique's a receiver when he gets back, and Marcus is the gunner on special teams and defensive back.
2 blazingly fast kids.
How about that Texas Tech start time, 5 p.m. local time? So 5 p.m. Mountain. I can't even remember a 5 p.m. start. There's 8:15s, there's 7:15s, there's 3:30, 1:30. But when it came out at 5 o'clock, I thought, well, what a strange time. That it'll be dark at halftime.
Yeah.
But what a strange time to start a game, 5 p.m.
Yeah, it's okay. We get to start our game day show at 3.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're not,
which means
there all
there's enough time
night.
to get a workout in the morning.
Yeah, thank goodness.
And then we don't have to stay up until in the middle of the morning on Sunday to finish. It's all good with me.
So I'm all for 5 o'clocks. I just don't remember us having one.
I don't remember one either.
So, hey, it's great to have BYU and TCU back together for the first time since comrades in the Mountain West Conference, right?
Yep.
Or did we ever play him as an independent?
I don't think we played him as an independent. I think it's been since conference play. Yeah, I can't recall any.
I'm trying to think. Was Riley was our independent quarterback because he was playing.
Was that in Independence we played him?
I think it was because he was playing Notre Dame and those guys.
Yeah.
So I think it is the first time since
that game.
since that game, and I'm just going back on my.
Was that 2011?
Mine was 2011.
Yeah, 2011.
And so they're back together, and it's going to be cool. It's on ESPN. We will see you at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time on BYU TV for game day.
That's right.
And Austin Colley's going to hang out with us. That'll be fun to get his perspective on the receivers.
Yep.
Especially Chase Roberts, who was on the show last week. A lot of people think Chase Roberts and Austin Colley, that Roberts is very much like Colley, similar size, great hands, speed that we saw. We saw Roberts run away from Cincinnati. So, I mean, if Chase is going to be like anybody, be like Austin.
Be like Austin.
Yeah.
So we'll have Austin with us. Good. It'll be fun.
For Blaine Fowler, I'm Dave McCann. We're the Wise Guys. The podcast will be up tomorrow. Share it with your friends. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you Saturday on BYU TV. And again next week for more Wise Guys.
See you Saturday.